If you are feeling discouraged, that's actually kind of normal. It's sad, it's not fair, but that discouragement is kind of a normal part of the process of putting yourself out there over and over and over again. Hey there, I want to talk origin story, the story about the book before the book. I'm super excited to be celebrating the second edition of the publication of the Creativity Leap. It's happening this June of 2026. And I want to share the origin story about what got me there and how that book came to be. Because I think for those of you who are interested in writing a book, who are working on a book proposal, who are having some self-doubts, who have been plugging away at this, I just wanted to share my story about how I got from an idea to a book proposal to the first edition of the Creativity Leap in June of 2020. Great timing. The pandemic had started in March, as we all know. And then, fast forward 6 years later to having a second edition. It seems easy and seamless on the surface, but it so was not seamless and easy for me to get the first edition of the Creativity Leap published. I just wanted to share kind of that origin story because I'm hoping that my experience will serve as encouragement for a lot of you who have a book in you, who are thinking about the process. So let me go back to around 2018. I'd been a year out on my own, building my company, Figure Eight Thinking, and I was noticing that as I was prototyping ideas in my keynotes, I'm just playing around with these ideas of wonder and rigor and applied creativity. The feedback after keynotes would be, man, that was great. Where can I read more about this? And that's when I started to have the signal that maybe I have a book in me. Maybe there's a book I can write. Well, great idea. The challenge was that back in 2018, I didn't have a literary agent. I did not know anything about the publishing industry. And thus began my 18-month experience of rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter. I was just blindly sending out a book proposal that I kind of cobbled together initially through some kind friends who would show me their kind of template of a book proposal. But the rejections were just so hard. And I mean, this was 18 months worth of rejections. And the answers were really two extremes. Either the responses I got to my book proposal for the Creativity Leap were either, this has already been said, no thank you, or this is amazing, but we don't have the bandwidth to take this on right now. So I then, around 7 months in, I hired a business coach who was super helpful in helping me to revise that initial book proposal, but I was still getting rejections. So now, maybe my timing is a little bit off, but now we're at the end of 2018. It's like January of 2019. And I was just in the doldrums. The way I used to describe what it felt like to try to break through into the publishing industry, into traditional publishing, to get my ideas acknowledged through a book was two metaphors. Either I felt like the unpopular girl at the party and no one was asking me if I knew how to dance and no one was asking me to dance. So that was one way I used to always be feeling. The second feeling I likened to having a long nail manicure. I don't have long nails, but if I had a long nail manicure and I was wearing stilettos and was trying to scale a castle wall, that's also how trying to get just a meeting, a call, just to discuss my ideas felt. It just felt impenetrable. So fast forward, it's now January of 2019. I'm in the doldrums. I say to my husband, John, you know what? I guess my ideas aren't any good. All I get is rejection letters and people are saying either this has already been said or, we don't have the bandwidth. And at that stage, I had a book that I edited on design thinking. So John, my cheerleader, he goes, no, babe, I think your ideas are great. Keep trying, keep going. So the first lesson I want to share is that if you are feeling discouraged, that's actually kind of normal. It's sad. It's not fair, but that discouragement is kind of a normal part of the process of putting yourself out there over and over and over again. So you've got to find ways to remain buoyant, maybe for me, I would say, okay, well, that's all right. There'll be someone else who will take an interest, and just keeping that hope alive, surrounding yourself with positive friends, network, community, and continuing to ask for help. So like I shared, I hired a business coach who helped me reframe, figured out what was wrong with the current business proposal. So the first lesson I want to share is that if you're feeling discouraged, that's actually kind of normal. So don't let that stop you. Ride the wave and figure out your own elixir that will help you to remain in the race, in the game. So now it's January of 2019, and because John was encouraging me, I said, okay, maybe what if I just emailed, there's like 5 people I know in my network who have published, and what if I just shared my most recent version of my book proposal and asked them if they were amenable to it, if they didn't mind, to share my book proposal with someone they know in their publishing network. Totally okay if they don't feel comfortable doing that. So I gave them an out. And there are about 5 people I knew of. And when I say know of, a few of these people we had never met in person. Actually, I've still, one of them I'm thinking of, I have met in person. But one of those people who I emailed was the co-author of a great book called The Experience Economy, Joseph Pine. John Gilmore and Joseph Pine wrote that book. I had cited them in my PhD research. I was a fangirl through email. They were very nice. They would respond to my emails over the years. Joe Pine was one of the people I emailed in this last ditch, what if maybe this person would be interested? Let me just try one more thing. So I sent out 5 emails to people in my network who I knew were published, and I shared the book proposal, and I said, if it makes sense for you, I would be so appreciative if you wouldn't mind sharing this with someone you know in publishing. Joseph Pine said, okay, this looks interesting. Let me see who might be interested. And I said, thank you very much. Did not expect anything to happen from it. The person who Joe Pine shared my book proposal with happened to be the vice president of editorial at Barrett Kohler, a wonderful B Corp publishing house. I actually had not even heard of Barrett Kohler at that point. And, I sent the email and life went on. And about 2 weeks later, Joseph Pine emails me back and he says, actually, my friend at Barrett Kohler would like to have a conversation with you. And I'm still like, okay, thank you so much. Low expectations. I have the conversation with Neil, who was the vice president of editorial at Barrett Kohler. We speak for like an hour. I remember I was having lunch on a warm spring day in this dark Chinese restaurant in downtown Philly, one of my favorite restaurants at the time. And, it was kind of tucked away in the corner, just having this great engaging conversation. He seemed to get my ideas. And at the end of the phone call, Neil Kleinman said, great, this looks really cool. We have a editorial meeting this Thursday. I'm going to pitch your book and you should hear from me by 5 p.m. on Thursday. I said, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It was lovely talking to you. And my week went on. That was probably on a Monday. And I remember he said that by 5 p.m. on Thursday, I should hear something. Well, that Thursday rolls around and I don't hear anything. And I think, oh, well, another one bites the dust. They weren't interested either. Now, what I forgot was that Barrett Kohler was in Oakland and San Francisco. I'm in Philly, totally different time zone. On Friday morning, when I woke up and started going through email, I see an email from Neil Kleinman. The subject line is bravo, 3 exclamation marks. And one of the first sentences is, we want to offer you a book deal. Now, what's the lesson in this? The first lesson I've already shared. If you're feeling discouraged, that's actually, you got to ride the wave. That's normal. The second lesson is go into your reserve of what's that, just that one more thing you might try. That one more what if question that you should not discard. Don't ignore it. And my what if question was, well, what if these 5 people I know who really don't know me from a can of paint were amenable just to share my book proposal with someone they know in the industry? And that person for me was Joseph Pine, co-author of The Experience Economy. The third lesson in this is access your network. You have angels among you, people who will be willing to just put in a good word for you. And again, a lot of these people I had never met in person, but I just cultivated a friendly email dialogue with them over the years. And much to my delight and gratitude, they were willing to share my book proposal with someone in their network. So that's the third lesson. Don't give up. Go back to that reservoir of what if, and access your network. You probably have gems among people who are professionally generous and who would not mind helping you at all. And then I think the last lesson that I want to share based on my experience of getting the Creativity Leap Edition 1 published is just to suspend judgment, is to remember the ideas that you're falling in love with, that you want to share with people. Keep that front and center and be open to the serendipity of the process as you're cultivating your ideas, knowing that that initial draft version of that book proposal is not at all going to be like what the final book looks like, but that's okay. But suspend judgment, be self-compassionate, be open to the serendipity of this process. So wanted just to give that origin story, which during so many days and so many times, it felt fruitless. It felt like I was howling in the wind. It felt like no one was interested in my ideas. So I'm super grateful to people like Joseph Pine and Neil Kleinman and my husband, John. Make sure you got a good person in your corner who got to pick you up on your low days. And know that if you have a book in you and you have these ideas that you want to share with the world, keep going. You can rest, but don't stop. So that's my story. Super excited and grateful and surprised to be offering the world a second edition of the Creativity Leap out this June 2026, where the newest chapter explores what creativity looks like in a time of AI. I hope that this was encouraging to you. Keep writing, keep going.